Hey guys, it's Ty and welcome back to this channel. So for today's video, I will be making spaghetti by using ground beef, tomato paste, and tomato sauce with a side of garlic bread. So I just want you guys to know this will be my first cooking video. I do like to make food, and when I cook food, I do like to use like natural ingredients and from scratch. But for today's video and the resources that I had that were limited, everything that I'm going to be using is from your local grocery store. So it's going to be store-bought. So with that being said, I'm going to list the ingredients, the tools, and the supplies, and anything else that needs to be listed. So stay tuned, make sure you guys are drinking plenty of water, make sure you guys are hydrated, as well as preparing for the weather and getting to and from your destination safely. So we're going to go ahead and start this video. If you're interested in these videos, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, make sure you comment down below, and make sure you subscribe by turning my notification bell, as well as follow me on my main channel. For those of you who may or may not know, Talks with Ty, that is the main channel, or Ty Guidance, where I suggest and advise information as a spiritual healer. So currently right now I'm in my room, and I'm going to go downstairs in the kitchen and go ahead, set up, and prepare for you guys. So let's go ahead and go to the kitchen.
To the kitchen. Do, 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 do. Okay. I hope you guys are having a good day so far. I'm not a vlogger, so don't come for me. Okay, so we made it to the kitchen. So let me see if I could. Let's set this here. Let's see. Okay, so currently in our kitchen right now, and I'm gonna go ahead and flip the camera and show you what we're gonna be using from the ingredients, seasons, and appliances. So the oven and the stove, as well as the actual tools to cook the food. So let's go ahead. I'll be right back, or I'm gonna flip the camera.
For today's spaghetti, this is what we're going to be using. We have our choice of meat. We have ground beef. We also have our sauces for the pasta. So this is tomato paste, and we have Prego sauce, as well as our garlic bread and some noodles. Now, of course, I do like to make homemade food, but for today's video, we're using store-bought resources. So now we're going to move on to our appliances, as well as our tools that we're going to be using, as well as what we're going to be putting our food in. And me personally, you guys, I like to have everything organized, so prepping, so having the food prepared, as well as, like I said, what we're going to be using. So this is what we're using for the actual food. Now here you will see we have this right here. This is for the bread once it's done cooking. This is for the noodles. This is optional. This is for the sauce. It's going to be optional because I usually like to make my food in the pot together, as you guys will see in a moment. But if you guys want it to be separate, I have it here, as well as this pan, just in case, it's hot, as well as this here for the actual noodles. And then we have a strainer, and then this is going to be for our garlic bread. So this is for our noodles and our ground beef. Once we drain it, this is for the garlic bread and to put in the oven, and this is what we're going to put our food in once it's done. So it should look like this. And once again, I just do this, like I said, to make it more convenient for me. I like to have everything nice and organized. So then here we have our spoon to stir up our pasta and our food once it's done. This is for the noodles when we're first boiling it. I have these two, spoon and fork, to taste our food, because I don't know how you guys like to cook, but I like to taste my food as I'm cooking it, because even though I'm very well experienced when it comes to cooking, you still want to taste it just in case. This is for people who may or may not know how much amount of seasoning you may need, and this is for our ground beef. And then the seasonings we have for today's video, we have black pepper, garlic powder, Italian seasoning salt, onion powder, oregano, and I think a little bit of minced onion. And then I like to put my spaghetti in bowls. I don't know why. I think all pasta just goes in bowls. Some people like to use a plate. You can use a plate, or you can use a bowl. So really quickly, I'm just going to move that so you guys can see like an overall. Okay, so this is what we're looking like. Okay, so now we have our placeholder with our spoons for our pasta, and we have a big old pot. You can get any form of pot, and you're going to go ahead and get some cool water and boil your water when adding your noodles. We're going to put it on a high heat or low heat, depending on how you like to, look at it. Always eyeball it or set a timer, and that's going to be for our noodles. And then this is going to be for our ground beef. And then here we have our spoon to cook our ground beef with. You can use a wooden spoon or this kind of spoon. This is for the measurements of our seasoning. This is optional, as well as our taste testing fork. I feel like this is required, but it can also be optional. And when I cook any type of meat, because I don't have like any onions, green pepper, red pepper, bell pepper, I'm going to use some minced garlic. So let's go ahead and start the video.
Okay, so now we're about to start. As you guys can see, I have the water running, but before you cook or clean, you want to make sure that your sleeves are rolled up. The reason why is so you don't get any food on you or burn yourself. And not just that, I like to roll up my sleeves when I'm cooking and cleaning. So the water's already running. Okay, so now after we roll up our sleeves, we're going to, most importantly, before we start doing anything, wash our hands. Yes, I always wash my hands before I cook and clean. Depending on what I'm cleaning with or I'm cooking, I may or may not use gloves, but for today's video, I am not using gloves. I'm gonna go ahead and scrub a dub dub, rub a dub dub. Okay, wash your hands for like maybe 15 to 30 seconds. Make sure, you know, getting the nitty grit. Okay, go ahead, scrub them hands, make sure they're nice and clean, because who doesn't wash their hands before they cook? I mean, if you are like a chef or a professional, okay, but me personally, like I said, I like to keep things clean and organized and neat. So we're gonna go ahead, wash those hands. Yes, sir. Get into it. Put your back up off the wall. Dance. Come on. Get your back up off the wall. Dance. Come on. Okay, so now that our hands are rinsed, okay, yes, I like to ball my hands up into a fist and make sure I get all of the nits and the grits in between the cracks, okay? And as you guys can see, my little pinky is still messed up. So now I'm going to go ahead, dry them off. You only need one paper towel. A lot of people waste paper towels, but if you need 3,000, go ahead. But over here, I just need one. Make sure you dry and you want to pat dry your hands, okay? Like I said, I just showed y'all my crusty, dusty pinky, but it's all good in the hood, okay? Get them hands dry, dry, dry. Like I said, you only need one paper towel, but if you need two, the more the merrier, okay? Make it fold, okay? Place that right there. So now we're gonna go ahead and get a cup. This is optional. Most people like to just go ahead and put the water in the pot, but I like to use a cup just so I know like the measurements and I'm able to understand and see how much water I should add or if I have too much. But if you want to, you could go ahead and boil the water. Like I said, you can eyeball it. I'm not a professional chef, but I just like to use measurements when it comes to, boiling water. As you guys can see, I'm currently eating, well, you guys cannot see, but I'm currently eating the spaghetti as I'm making this part because I got hungry, you guys. I was hungry the entire day, okay? And this video, like I said, was something interesting. So now, like I said, depending on how much water you need to boil into your pot is optional. I personally, I think, use 3 to 5 cups of water. So 3 to 6 cups of water is required. If not, make sure you add the water to your liking, because when it comes to like boiling stuff, you don't want to have too much water, but you don't want to have a little bit. So like depending on if you're making rice or noodles, you can add water and then add the noodles in and then add water, or like I said, you can just get some measurements and be specific. So now we're just adding the rest of the water to make sure that it is full to our liking. And the water that I used was cool. And as this part right here, my camera cut off, you guys, so I apologize.
The last part, you guys see me by the sink after I wash my hand and I add some water into the pot so it can boil. I currently have the stove on right now, and as you guys can see, our water is boiling. Before we start, after we wash our hands, make sure you have your music playing. Currently right now, I have Pandora, They Don't Know by John B. And this part I'm going to mute so I don't get copyright and speed through and talk through the process. So currently we have our water boiling and we have our stove on for our pan. So now before I put our ground beef in, I'm going to go ahead and put some minced garlic. And the music is optional, but I like to cook when I have music, and I like to clean when I have music on too.
The part everyone has probably been waiting for. You guys, this is my first time cooking and making a cooking video. So yeah, so first we're going to get our noodles. These are spaghetti noodles, okay? So I'm just showing you guys. Go ahead. I had half of a box and a full box, so that's what I'm doing right now. Like I said, getting our noodles. And I like to break them in half, so therefore they're not all stiff and stuck. Okay, let's go ahead and break that in half. I need to go to the gym, you guys, because I don't know why them noodles, I had to flick it or rick it or wrist just to break them in half, okay? So go ahead and break your noodles in half. So the water is nice and boiled, as you guys can see. And as I was breaking them in half, like I said, because I am weak in the wrist, they splattered. But it's okay if you make a mess. Nobody's perfect. And you guys, if this video is long, like I said, this is my first time. So let's just go ahead, add our noodles in. Bear with me. So as of right now, we're just adding in the noodles. So like I said, I had a half in a box, or 2 boxes and a half. I don't know how to say it. Either way, I had 1 full box and then I had half of a box. So I used half of the box first, and then I went back in and used maybe majority of the other box, and I broke it in half. And as I was putting in the noodles, I was eyeballing it to make sure. So now we take those boxes, and we get the rest. And like I said, you can add as much pasta as you need. So I made enough for a couple of days, and I also live with my mom and my brother, so that's 3 people. So I'm just going in, and like I said, I like to break it in half so they're not all like sticking at the bottom of the pan or like stiff. I like my noodles to be kind of like soft, so therefore when you throw it on the wall, it sticks. And you guys, I forgot to put that in the video, because I definitely, to test your noodles, I threw it on the wall. I may add it at the end of the video. So now we're gonna go ahead, go to our meat, add our minced garlic. So as our noodles are boiling, we are going to head and add our minced garlic into our ground beef. Okay, like I said, I don't have fresh onions and like bell peppers and all that good stuff, so I'm using some minced garlic. And when it comes to mixed garlic, the seasonings are always optional. Use what you guys have. Everyone is different. As I make more videos like this, or if you guys want me to make more videos, I'll be able to show you guys how I do things homemade. But once again, I'm using what I have. So therefore, we're gonna go ahead, add our ground beef. Okay, so now we have our noodles nice and boiled. We have our meat cooking with our minced garlic, and we're just letting that sit. So afterwards, once the noodles are done being boiled, we're gonna go ahead and drain them. So as you guys can see, I'm draining out the water first and then the noodles. And once your noodles are done cooking, I cook my noodles for 8 to 10 minutes. I go ahead and I leave them in the strainer, and I go ahead and drain them. I pick them up and I'm gonna shake what your mama gave you, okay? And then after we go ahead, shake and drain our noodles, we're gonna let that sit. And I have another pot that I forgot to show you guys that I'm going to put the noodles in, because like I said, I like to use the same pot. So we're gonna put the noodles to the side, and the reason why I'm putting them in a pot is because I want to drain my ground beef. Now, when you cook your food, you can just go ahead and put the ground beef in the pot, or like I said, if you want to use 2 separate pans, depending on your style and your preference. Me personally, because I don't want to do a whole bunch of dishes, I like to use 1 pot. So I'm going to go ahead and put the noodles in a separate pot so they could sit, and therefore when the meat is drained, I could go ahead and put the meat in and drain it, because you don't want like a whole bunch of grease and oil in your pot when adding the noodles back. Now I'm adding some seasoning salt. I already did that part off camera, okay? Now we're going to add the rest of the seasonings. We have onion powder. So we have our seasoning salt, we have onion powder. And like I said, the teaspoon measurements are for those who may or may not know. I just, I eyeball it. If anything, use 2 tablespoons. No, teaspoons, not tablespoons. 2 tablespoons of each, and then some oregano or oregano. The reason why I'm saying oregano is because people in UK, that's how they pronounce it. Then we stir. And every time I add seasoning, I like to stir it all up to make sure it's all the way through. So we have our seasoning salt. We got some onion powder, and now we're adding our oregano. Stir, stir, stir. Make sure it's all the way through. And I like to add the seasoning as the meat is cooking, so therefore it doesn't get dried up, or wait until the end where it's like completely crispy, so therefore I could taste it as it goes. Now we're gonna add some garlic powder. I was trying to get the camera to get focused, so now we're adding some garlic powder. Same thing. And if anything, just tap it and eyeball it, but make sure it's all the way covered, or just make sure, you know, you add the flavors to your liking that you like to cook with. I do not have a lot of options, and I am using the resources that my mom provided for me, so I was grateful to work with what I had. And don't mind me, you guys, I'm still eating this spaghetti. Once again, make sure your meat is stirred up all the way. Now we're going to add some Italian seasoning. And this is just what I use to season with, like I said, what I add. Usually I like some minced onions, some real chopped up onion, some green and some red peppers. But, you know, Juno, we had to make it do. But it still came out good, okay? This is why I tell you guys to have a fork for your taste testing, because I feel like it's really important to taste the food as you're making it, because if it's too salty or too spicy or just non-flavor, or, you know, it needs flavor, you're able to judge it, you know. And not just that, like if I had to cook for people other than like my mom and my brother, or for an event, I want to make sure that it tastes good. You don't want to make all that food and, you know, it tastes nasty. And I'm very picky. So now we're adding our black pepper, okay? I'm not gonna lie, I'm very heavy-handed when it comes to like black pepper. I try not to use salt. If I do have to use salt when it comes to seasoning food, I use sea salt. And same thing with the seasoning salt. I like to use different kinds of flavors. That's why I have a lot. So if that's too many, okay, just know I like to make sure that my food is cooked well done and nicely seasoned. Not to the point, like I said, where it's salty, but it tastes good enough for me. So now that is that, I'm showing you guys there. And while the ground beef is on, I have preheated my oven to 425 to go ahead and make the toast. So now our oven is on to make our garlic bread. I set it on for 425 degrees. I cook it for 6 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes. I cook it for 2 minutes on the first side, and then I turn it over. So now you guys can see I just got my fork picking up as it's cooking, and now I'm tasting it, making sure it tastes good. Our seasonings taste good. Okay, thumbs up. Season is nice and well and marinated. So now after this part, we're gonna go ahead and put the sauce into the first pot we use to make our noodles. That's why I told you guys to have the drainer and put your noodles in a separate pot so you can put them towards the side. So we're just adding in some sauce. Once again, I don't have like tomatoes and real vegetables to create our sauce, so we're using, I think, Prego meat sauce. And then we're going to turn down our meat, stir, 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 and make sure it's almost done. Making sure it's good to our liking. So once again, once you drain your noodles, you put your noodles to the side, and you take the noodles from out of the strainer and put them in a pot or a bowl. So therefore, when it's time to drain the meat, once again, you don't want any grease going back into the pot where the sauce is at, because it won't taste that well. And so it doesn't burn. So once again, I'm going back just to make sure to finalize, because now once I am done with the meat being cooked, I'm going to strain it. I'm going to drain it, and I'm going to put it in that the pot. So now we're going to go ahead and add our tomato paste. Once again, this is optional, but I like to cook spaghetti with tomato paste. I think it adds a lot of flavor, and it does to me. So now we're adding in some tomato paste. And I know some people may think there's tomato paste in the sauce, but once again, I don't usually use that kind of sauce. I'm at my mom's house, and this is what she had, so bear with me. Add our tomato paste, and we're going to put that on a low heat. So now I turned off the meat, stirring it up, making sure it's well done. It's nice and flavorful. It's nice and seasoned. So now we're making our sauce. Sauce is in a separate pot. So now you guys can see I drained the meat and I put it in the pot, and I went and go ahead to put our garlic bread in. I went to put the garlic bread in, excuse me. So I put it on the second row in the oven so it doesn't burn. So now once we have our garlic bread in and our meat, we're going to add some noodles in first and then stir it up. And then we're going to keep this on a low to medium. And that's the only reason why I cooked the noodles for like 8 to 10 minutes, because I knew I was putting it back in the pot to mix all of the sauce in. So you put in a little bit at a time, as you guys can see, and then you're going to stir it up. So there is the separate pot that I have for the noodles. So we have our ground beef, tomato paste, and tomato sauce, and now I'm just stirring it up. You want to add a little bit of noodles first, stir it up, and then repeat that step. Or you could put it in all at one time, or depending on how you cook, you can use your noodles in a separate pot. So once you drain them, you could put them back in the pot that you have, and you could just put your sauce on top, and then you could put your meat in the other pan, or you can have, like I said, your noodles by themselves and just add the sauce on top of your meat. Hopefully that made sense, you guys. Now I'm going in, like I said, with the second layer, and I'm just going to repeat this step. Now I'm checking on the garlic bread because I believe the timer went off. So I cooked it on for 6 minutes. I like it to be golden, crispy around the edges, but I want it to be soft in the middle, and that's why I had the fork. Make sure it's not too hard, not too soft. So when you bite into it, it crunches, but it feels good at the same time. Because we don't want no burnt toast. I mean, there's nothing wrong with burnt toast, but making it just right. And then once that's done, I flip it over. So therefore, like I said, the edges, the crust, edges too, girl, but making sure the crust is nice and crisp and the middle of our bread is soft. Y'all don't mind me smacking. I'm still eating the spaghetti. Now we're just stirring the rest up. Stir, 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 stir. Same thing, repeat the steps. Or you can leave your noodles separate and just add your sauce and your tomato paste in your meat frying pan. Now that I turned over the garlic bread, I'm about to take it out. So now this is what it should look like. And the garlic bread didn't look like it was done, but it was the lighting of it. So I tried to put my finger or my hand so you guys could see. So that's what it looks like once you're all done. So this is what it should look like once it's done. So as you guys can see, I already took a bite, but as you guys can see, the garlic bread is crispy, but this part, I like it to be soft. So as you can see, it's nice and soft. Now I'm going spaghetti. It tastes so good, you guys. I wish you could taste it. So now I'm gonna end up and wrap this video here. So thank you guys so much for joining me. This is my first time making a cooking video. It was a process and it was a lot longer than what I thought it was. So this video may be a little bit lengthy, but here, as you guys can see, this is what it's looking like. I got my other piece and I'm gonna enjoy the food. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Live your life and don't forget to say YOLO. And hopefully the more videos that I make, the more I will be able to learn how to like practice making them. So thank you guys so much. I will leave the ingredients and everything down in the description box. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.